Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Antique Auction Forum podcast. It's been a little while. I'm glad to be back today with a great guest, wonderful artist. I've heard the name for many years, got to meet him this year. His name is David Vickery, and he works from his home in Cushing, Maine. He's been there, working there since 1991. And from his own words, his work is about the merger of nature and culture, an attempt to make sense of our place in the world. David actually looks at interior spaces and our imprint on the landscape with an eye for the imperfect, quirky, and sometimes elegant adaptations we make in order to live here. I'm not sure if he means live here in the world or live here in Maine. I'm going to have to ask him that. David, welcome to the show.
Hi, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So yeah, as a crow flies, I guess we met this I don't know, last month, and but we live right near each other, and we have a connection too because Wally is your neighbor, and I work with his daughter in the appraisal business, so
yeah,
we're all connected this way and that way.
Yeah.
So welcome, David. So we are going to be talking about your paintings, which I think are absolutely beautiful. And like I mentioned, I heard your name before. I've seen display cards and things over the years. And so you have a really good, I would say you have a really good following too, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, enough to have made a living at it over the years is nice.
And that's for anyone out there who's ever tried to make a living as an artist. It's not easy.
No,
it's not an easy thing.
No.
In a way, you can almost when it comes to some of the major pieces and major artists out there, it's sort of like a rock star. That just very few trickle to the top.
Yeah.
And usually it's talent based on both aspects.
Yeah.
Not always, though.
No.
Yeah. So let's hear a little bit about you, David. What got you started in painting and your whole background, if you would.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Connecticut, and did a lot of drawing and painting in elementary school. And I remember being in a gifted art program, I think in fourth grade, and I was copying Edward Hopper paintings. The teacher.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Here's an art book. Find a painting you like and copy it. And I went right to Edward Hopper. Yeah. I was like 10 years old. So now I'm still kind of doing the same thing today. Drawing houses in their landscape with, a sense of habitation and melancholy or whatever. But I guess, and then after that, maybe in high school, I didn't do so much. I got bored with that. And I got into photography a lot in high school with, the Ansel Adams and Paul Strand and Edward Weston. I fell in love with that work, and I got some fancy camera equipment and went hiking around in the woods and fields and took a lot of pictures. A lot of boring pictures, but I learned a lot of composition.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time looking at the viewfinder, trying to force this brilliant image. And I did that for a number of years, but then it was about 30 years ago, I was at College of the Atlantic in Bar Harbor. And on a whim, I took a drawing course, which I enjoyed, and then a watercolor course, and then a painting course after that, an oil painting course. And I really got hooked on it from there, because I didn't think I could do it until I really tried. And,
yeah.
The teachers were good and were encouraging. And because it's not really an art college, it was just kind of a small pool of students. So it felt safer to try and maybe not be so great at it. But, I really got hooked on it. And it kept kind of charging along from there.
I know that, sometimes oil is hard for someone that first starts because of the drying time, and they just get frustrated and want instant results. But you must have. I mean, I look and I think I'm going to just pull up one of your paintings for,
Sure.
For those of you that are on YouTube and watching. I mean, let's just see the clouds right here. I mean, to me, I've tried to do clouds in paintings, and as I mentioned to you off air, it's usually by accident. I mean, that is just in this work here. I absolutely love this this
Thanks.
work, and it almost seems in a way that you're finding colors that don't exist. I mean, that blue, I just have never seen that blue, and I can't make that blue. I don't know how you make that blue.
Yeah, I took some liberties with that. I kept mixing different colors and different layers until I got that shade. But I was
Ah,
trying to get one of those really sunny, dry days when the sky is just a really deep, deep blue. And over the years, I realized you can take liberties and
yeah.
shade
Whoops.
of blue.
We got a little bit of internet freezing right there, but that's okay. I think,
Oh,
yeah, we
okay.
just missed that little last part of it. So, like, for instance, Maxfield Parrish, painted in many layers you know,
Oh, I love his work. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's amazing. I got to see one in person this last year, that an unknown one that was just fabulous, at his house in New Cornish, New Hampshire, the fountain there. It's just
Oh,
gorgeous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been wanting to go visit there or whatever's left of it. I'd love to
Yeah. Yeah.
see.
I haven't been there, but I heard it's still pretty nice there. So I guess so you went to school and you kind of got hooked in it. Now, did you do other things, like say work a regular job and painting on the side, or what was how did your career?
Yeah, carpentry. My dad was a builder. I grew up working with him, so I learned all those skills over the years. And so I did a lot of carpentry as a regular job.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, I was thinking of getting into furniture building, something a little finer too.
Ah,
But then I decided to go with painting. It was actually I had a lower overhead, just canvas and paints and brushes. If you wanted to go into woodworking, you had to get a shop and all this expensive equipment. And
oh yeah.
so I think I was just having enough success with painting that I felt I could, go for it and see if it would work out.
Ah,
And then
now,
I worked
yeah,
odd jobs, doing carpentry now and then.
yeah.
But I think around 92, I was able to go full time.
Wow.
My
And
wife.
what I describe the feeling when selling a painting is, it's not about the money so much as the appreciation. Do you share that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's that feeling that someone else appreciated it enough. They
Yeah,
liked your idea
yeah,
enough to want to own it, and yeah, that is a great feeling.
yeah. So do you think that a lot of what you do in your artwork has to do with your experience behind the lens?
Yeah, pretty much. That's a way of holding the image. You're out in the world, and you can just grab that image and that feeling and hold it there, and take it back to the studio, and then analyze it and recompose it carefully, and work on it over time.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's sometimes do thumbnail sketches. A few I've just sort of made up out of my head, but yeah, I'm still pretty hooked into photography.
yeah,
Although what I like about painting is that you're not trying to imitate the photo. The photo is just a starting point, that kind of nails down all the facts of the scene, and then from there you can play with light, shadow, color, move things around, whatever. I
yeah,
always remember the frustrating thing about photography is there's always something in the way. You get telephone pole,
yeah,
fabulous scene, and there's this awkward thing sticking in, and painting, you just get rid of all that. It's great.
yeah. I saw a painting recently it was an early painting of a child portrait, um, and she was sitting in a landscape, and there was a broken dead tree behind her, and I thought, if I was an artist, that I would not have painted that tree in, even though it was sitting there myself. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
um, so, the lighting, that's another thing you want to do, that you do so well, and and to me, that's also something you have to pay attention to all the way through a painting from start to finish. In other words, the angle of the light, and so how do you do you do that mostly from photo reference?
Yeah. 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 You're always paying attention to light and shadow, and um, choosing scenes that usually have a strong sunlight, strong sun and shadow.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's something I learned long ago that light was the most important thing, from reading about like at Hopper and Maxfield Parrish. That when I started out, I liked those really heavy, dense colors. I liked the substance, but the paintings were really murky. So it took several years to get enough light into them,
Hmm.
and realize that's the most important thing. And it's also this one thing in the painting that everyone can relate to. Whatever else you may
Yeah.
be trying to say, if there's really good light, that's something that everyone can appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing, going back to photographs, um, I I was kind of interested to see, because I've handled a number of artists' estates, and some noted artists, and a lot of times they say that, well, they never used photographs, but that's totally false. I have found all kinds of photographs in artists' estates where they
Ah,
use they'll photo the model for reference, again, for reference. It's just,
hmm,
little characteristics and maybe several poses by that artist, and they have a whole separate pose. But it's photos have been used for reference for artists as long as photos have been around, as far as I know,
yeah,
in my experience.
yeah, that's what I've read. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Um, and so you did a lot of drawing when you were young, but would you consider yourself mostly self-taught, even though you did take some classes?
Yeah, I would say so, because it was really just two college level classes that I had in painting, and then after that, it really was being self taught. Yeah, like going to galleries and museums, and
Yeah.
I kept buying art books and going through all of art history and studying all that. But yeah, a lot of trial and error. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a lot of frustration and mediocre paintings, and
Yeah.
you have just enough success to keep you going.
Dangerously.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
I want to put this painting up here for people watching on YouTube, because to me, I saw this in person this summer and I was absolutely blown away by this work. Um, and what it is, for the listener, and you can see it on the website again. It's a campfire scene, and I'm telling you, when you see this painting in person, it looks like that's real fire, like you'd burn your fingers on that just
That-
if you touched it. Um, how on earth did you get that contrast? I mean, I can't understand how you made that look so much like fire.
I think it was just starting with the center of the fire, being the brightest point, bright yellowish white or whatever, and then everything gets more orangey and red as you go out. So it's really contrasts. It's focusing on that bright point, and everything is that much darker. So you have to make, if you want the sense of fire, you've got to make sure you've got some pitch black in there, or the
Ah, yeah.
darkest value that you can get. It's all contrast. It's like Caravaggio's work, very, very strong contrast.
There was an artist called Sparks. Have you ever heard of that one? It's a
No.
California artist. He was pretty good at that type of work. William Sparks, I think.
Hmm.
Um, um, and as I have to say, Nocturnes are one of my favorite paintings. When I'm like in a museum or something like that. We talked about Maxfield Parrish. There's a beautiful nocturne he has of a church in the background and the lights in it and inside and everything. I love nocturnes, but is
Yeah.
that a real difficult thing to paint?
Yeah, yeah, it is, because you're still trying to preserve some sense of light in it, but everything's kind of dark, and it's also difficult to mix colors because everything is muted. There's a lot of grays. The saturation, everything is really low, but you're still trying to make things stand out. Um,
Yeah.
and you usually have it usually contrasts with like a bright lighted window in a house that's yellow, and the rest of the scene outside will be cool or bluish or gray. So that there again, it's strong contrast. But yeah, it's a lot of really, really maddeningly subtle colors. When
would
you
you would you consider that like the most difficult type of painting to take on, challenge?
Well, I would say portraits are.
Ah,
I've
yeah.
done 4 or 5 portraits, and they're just totally unforgiving. And they take
Yes. Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
So
Wow.
people will, I've got a couple of good ones, but they took at least 4 months. It was kind of reminded me of pushing a boulder up a hill. Just
Wow.
tiny, tiny corrections. And eventually, in the end, I would get something I felt was pretty good, but it was really hard. But yeah, I would
Yeah.
say the Nocturnes are second to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always heard that you start with the eyes in a portrait. Is that so?
Um, I don't. I start with the overall composition and a strong drawing and like the body language,
I see.
the
Yeah.
pose. But yeah, I know another artist I in said she starts with the eyes and then works out from there.
Yeah.
So I guess it's whatever works for you.
Yeah. I guess there's so many subtle expressions a person can have over, that you have to try to capture. I can get that. Animal, like painting a deer or something standing sideways is a little different. You don't have to worry about the personality of it so much.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, and what type of clients would you say? Are they from all over that you have?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much all over the country. My main gallery is Dowling Walsh in Rockland, but they have clients from all over.
Yeah.
Even a couple um, paintings went to Germany, I think, maybe one in Australia. Um, yeah, pretty much all over, but yeah, mostly the U.S. and the Eastern U.S.
Uh-huh. I'm going to put up a picture, and we'll have this on the podcast as the podcast image. But this is something
Oh yeah,
look at this. Let's talk about this painting. It's really amazing, and I think you have the best shadowing I've ever seen in a painting. It's just amazing.
thanks. Yeah, that's it's called Self Portrait with Ski Patrol, and in the winter I go skiing up at the Camden Snowball, which is about a half an hour away, and I would often take a little camera with me just to take snapshots. And this was one moment I was just going up the ski lift and took this snapshot as the ski patrol guy scooted underneath me. And when I got home and looked at it, I thought that's a really neat scene. I think I'll try it, but I really didn't have much confidence because there wasn't much in it. It's like there's no horizon or sky, and you're looking down at the snow. And I just didn't think it could work. But as I worked on it, progressed, it started turning out pretty good. And I realized a lot of that was about the air and the light and the shadow and the sort of substance versus no substance. Like the only solid objects are maybe the trees and the skier, and the rest is all shadow. And it was a great
Wow.
lesson and what a good painting can be or what can work.
Yeah.
Before that, I was just focusing on interesting solid objects, the way you would arrange them. But this has a lot of air in it, and again, it's built up from like a medium gray value of snow, and then highlights, where everyone has skied over it. And it's also what I love is the serendipitous moments that I paint from. Just going
Yeah.
about your business. If you have a camera with you, you can grab that moment of something you never would have thought of, and it can turn out to be a really good painting.
Yeah. There's a saying. It goes something like, um, "The camera makes a prisoner of the present moment." I heard that like years ago, and it kind of that does. It's like a captured moment right there,
Yeah,
and that ski patrol guy doesn't even know he's famous.
no, that's right. I know.
Yeah. No, that's a absolute lovely painting. I really, uh, this is just quite. It just shows that your talent on doing this, and I love the way it looks like it was a very well skied area, and then the patrol skier is one that makes the most recent marks
Right.
following up to the back of his skis. So yeah, that's really great. And that's yeah, Camden Snowball. We didn't have any snow last year there at all. That was really It was a
Not
bad year
much.
for
I
them
think
up
I
there.
just went once. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some? I had this painting I saw that you did too. It almost looks like a Britcher. I'm not sure if you know who that artist is.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
very
Kind of a Hudson River
or
comp.
Trust Richards.
Yeah,
Yeah, very similar. Absolutely beautiful. Is this a local scene?
Yeah, that's Monhegan. That's Blackhead on Monhegan, which is a really famous motif, which almost everyone has painted.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about Monhegan. You just got back from there.
Yeah, yeah. My girlfriend and I were out there for a week, and we usually rent a cottage out there for a week each year. And I go around and take photos and make sketches, and usually come back with 2 or 3 ideas.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
But
that's great.
it's been a very famous place for artists for 140 years or so.
That's right. And you actually teach out there, or you have taught out there in the past, right?
No, I haven't taught. I did a residency out there. There's the
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the used to be called the Karina House Residency. I think it's just the Monhegan Artist Island Residency. That was in '93, and I was out there for 6 weeks. And
Wow.
that's great. They just give you a stipend and 6 weeks to paint or do anything that you want.
Sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
still going. Yeah, yeah, it's a good program.
So, when you, every artist has like, as far as I know, every artist I've ever known has like a back room of things that they never sold or they did early or they like. Do you have that type of situation, or do your things all move along?
No, yeah, I have a bunch here in the studio that haven't sold. Some that have been at the gallery for many years, and they're just kind of oddball, or I don't know, too big or something, or too expensive and haven't sold.
Yeah.
And a couple of older ones. Yeah, one of the first ones I did on Monhegan.
Hmm.
That was maybe the second painting I attempted when I was in my painting class in college. This is one of my sisters standing in front of a house, and that was
Ah,
an oil. And I remember painting that and not knowing how thick to put the paint on.
ah,
When you're starting out, it's like, what is this? It's like coming out as thick as peanut butter, and I just didn't know how thick I wanted to. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this stuff? But I
and
gradually ended up with this kind of smooth, almost enamel-like surface that I prefer.
yeah. And is that all? Are all your paintings? Well, you mentioned layers. Are your paintings layers, like glazes as
Yeah.
well?
Yep. Glazes, a lot of semi-transparent. If I do the moon, that'll be all glazed. Like I'll leave the moon area pure white when I lay out the composition, and then just glaze over that to make it pop out. Maybe
Wow.
not so much that one, but other moons, nighttime moon scenes.
Yeah.
That'll
Um,
just be a glaze, which I got the idea from reading a Maxfield Parrish book.
oh, really? Wow.
He explained his process of glazing. And I've
Um,
had a couple of paintings like that where it's all glazes, it's all transparent, kind of like slide film was. But that's really hard. it's it's like a layer of pure color and then varnish, another layer of pure color. Uh, Very difficult.
wow. And so you're talking about varnishes in between?
Yeah, yeah. Although the only thing I use for varnish now is Liquin, Winsor Newton. It's the alkyd resin. That's the only medium that I use, but
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. And that actually dries a little quicker too, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, it helps
Yeah.
the process move along at the end of the day.
Here's another moon I just put up here.
Yeah, that's a good example where the moon itself is all glazed in thin layers of yellow, and the rest of the painting is all like opaque, dark, heavy
Yeah.
color, so that allows the moon to pop out. I think
Wow.
if you use opaque yellows and whites in the moon, it's not going to be quite as bright.
Now, maybe I'm talking a little more technical than the average listener would care to hear,
Okay.
but I do want to ask this: when you do something like this, how is the tree line last, or is this all done together?
Yeah,
The
it's
tree
all
line
done.
over the moon, I should say.
Yeah, that was all pretty much done together.
Ah,
I think the tree line was lower when I started, and as I got finished, I gradually kind of crept up the trees to make those shapes a little more interesting
ah, wow.
with heavy opaque, because that's kind of an important part where the bright light from the moon is kind of bursting through those branches, and tried to make that interesting.
Yeah, and I see that you've had the moon in a number of your paintings,
Yeah,
and one of them I think I saw This is I think I saw one. You had one. You sold it right away this summer. Am I right about that?
This one here?
No, another one you'd had at the moon. I was trying to put it up on the screen. There's a reflection in the water below it.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah. That was a Isla Ho. Yes, yeah. A woman bought that this summer. I think the day that I put it up at that
Yeah,
outdoor
that's what
art
I
show.
remember.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, it's nice when that happens.
Oh yeah.
Um, so have you ever tried to experiment outside of your comfort zone when it comes to your style, or do you just stick with what you're doing? Sorry, my screen's flashing here.
Yeah, I
Uh,
kind of stick. Oh, yeah. I've pretty much stuck with that style. I think it's like a long-term evolution of gradually learning and improving and perfecting that style. I'm happy with that, and haven't really felt the need to.
yeah, yeah. Well, it works. It works very well. And what are some of the projects you're working on now?
Well, right behind me is from last week's Monhegan trip. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, okay. Yep.
There was just a snapshot. There's a guy fixing his house. There was some work being done on these gables in the house in the center of town, and from that snapshot, I kind of recomposed it. And I don't know if you can see here. I'm that panel which is coated with burnt sienna. That's always the base that I use.
Yep.
And I've just been working on the architectural drawing part of that right now. And so that's a scene that I've just started. And
Yeah.
let get this other one behind me. There's one of a hinge on Monhegan.
Yeah. Since you got the camera right there in front of you. Yeah.
All right. Here's
Oh,
one that's
wow.
maybe half done. I
Wow.
like working with whites and light and shadow, and that's sort of a trompe l'oeil.
Yeah, I'll say it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's I don't know halfway along. So that's what's happening. And that was again from a snapshot, just walking around. Something grabs your attention. You're like, oh, maybe that can work. And
Wow.
I
Yeah.
like the challenge of that. It's always I always think it's like trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Scenes, there's what did Andrew Wyeth say? You'll start with a half an inch of an idea, and the painter will work up from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's really good. I love that type of work. I'm jealous of that. How long does it take you to, let's just pull this painting up, to make this painting look as beautiful as it is? It's just gorgeous. How much time do you have in a piece like this?
That would be about 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of time was spent drawing out the rock, the geology, trying to get it somewhat accurate. Looking at it now, I probably could have spent more time, but I think,
Yeah.
you were talking about the artist you knew who can't paint loosely, and I can't seem to either. I like all those details. Everything in there is important, and I think that all adds to, whatever it is that inspired you is all that little stuff in there. Of course, the hard thing is to make it all work together so that it doesn't all crumble.
Right. I'm going to ask you kind of a funny question. Do you know when you're done?
Yeah. There's a point where you just can't really improve it anymore.
Yeah.
Where you're tweaking this little part and that little part, and then you'll take a photo and it didn't improve it any over the previous photo. And I think that's an important part of the process is photographing the painting when you think you're done, and you'll take a snapshot and it looks terrible because the camera just doesn't lie. It's like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
So
I've actually seen that before, and the stuff that I do. I'm not saying, I call myself a painter. I don't call myself an artist, but I'll take a picture of something and say, oh, geez, I didn't even notice that. But you can see it in a photo somehow.
It's terrible. I know. It's like I delude myself a lot of the time. I think because maybe after 3 weeks, you want to be done and you think it's brilliant, but
yeah,
it doesn't let you off easy.
I heard an abstract artist say, let's see, don't worry about how you're going to start, just worry about how you're going to end.
Yeah, yeah,
I can see that in abstract work for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's also good test at like putting the painting at a distance. I'll lean it up against my garage, like 100 feet away, and turn it upside down, look at it in a mirror. Those tricks.
Yeah, I remember my dad when he went he trained under an artist years ago in the 60s, and they started by doing all the drawings upside down, like an upside down bottle, up, just so you can train your eye to see the object and not try to make it an object. You know what I mean? See the lines.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
just as a flat composition or design. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right. Do you ever do any types of like a series? Do you run in a series, or is it like a one sort of random idea after another?
Yeah, it's mostly one random idea after another. I've tried to do a series, and I after the second or third painting, I get tired of it. It becomes kind of onerous.
Uh-huh.
You're stuck with that idea. But I
Yeah.
guess the only consistent thing would be the moon paintings, which I find that subject really, really compelling. It's very common and kind of a cliche, but I still think it's very compelling subject
Yeah.
with a lot of depth to it.
Yeah. I love those paintings, and I hope you do. I hope you do more. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, sure. Same
And
here.
and so let's remind the audience they can go to dvickery.com, and that's where your paintings are, right?
Yep.
And
Also with the Dowling Walsh Gallery website, we'll have my work there too.
and where is that? In Rockland?
Yep, Main Street, Rockland. I think it's just dowlingwalsh.com. I've also started showing at Bernay Fine Art in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. About 7 pieces of mine now.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, David.
Sure. Thank you, Martin.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.